We begin today the Gemara on Daf Tezayin Amud Beis, 2 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, Boy Rava. So the Gemara is continuing. In the Sugya, we're speaking about a person that's Tameh. He became Tameh while he was inside the Beis HaMikdash. So the Mishnah said that he has to remain there for a certain amount of time, Shehiyah, as long as it takes to bow down completely on the ground. Then he'll be Chayav a carbon. So this shear, this amount of time of Shehiyah, K'dei Yishtachva, as long as it takes to bow down, is a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So the question now is, and the Gemara will bring a few different shilas here, whether this applies and in other circumstances, and exactly when is this halacha l'Moshe Misinai said. So Rav asked the shaila. Tzarech shehiyah l'malkus, in a case where a person is tamei and there's no helam, he didn't forget, so he's not going to be chayiv a carbon muchatas, he's chayiv malkus. So this shear that we said that he has to be there a certain period of time, does that apply for malkus as well? Or for malkus, if he got a warning that he should leave immediately and he didn't, even if he remained there less than that shear, as long as it takes to bow, that would be malkus as well. So now the basis of the ibaya is lekarbon gemiri shehiyah. This halacha l'Moshe Misinai that gives this amount of time that he's only chayav a carbon, then is it only regarding a carbon? There's this leniency only if he remains that amount of time. L'malkus loy gemiri, but for malkus you don't have this leniency, and if he stay there even a little bit after he was warned, he would be chayav a carbon. Loy gemiri shehiyah, that is, there's no halacha l'Moshe Misinai for this shehiyah, this amount of time. Or maybe we could say bifnim gemiri. The halacha l'Moshe Misinai is teaching that bifnim gemiri shehiyah, if he's inside and he remains there, then there has to be this shear, this amount of shehiyah to be chayiv, whether carbon or malchus as well. Loishna la carbon, v'loishna la malchus, the same thing. Teiku, so this remains a shaila. Boy Rava, another shaila. Rava asked, Tola atzmai ba'aver azara mao. He became tamei, he's inside the azara, and he didn't leave immediately. He remained there that amount of time of shehiyah, but he didn't remain with his 2 feet on the ground. He suspended himself in the air, or he stood on some kind of on a nail or whatever it is that he found where he's not 2 feet on the ground. What's the halacha in this case? Do I say ki gemiri shia de basish tachva? This whole halacha that he has to remain inside as long as it takes to bow down, that'll be chayav a carbon. That's if he actually remains in a position that he could bow down when he's 2 feet on the ground. But the lav basish tachva loy gemiri. But if he's inside and he remains but in a position that he can't bow down, so then there's no halacha l'Moshe Misinai that he would be chayiv. In other words, according to this side of the ibaya, the fact that the shear is the amount it takes to bow down, it's not stam a simmons, not some kind of a shear, but it actually means that it has to be in that position that he's able to bow down. Or I could say that, the shear is as long as it takes to bow, but it doesn't matter if he's actually able or not. Bifnim shehiyah gemiri. As long as he remains inside that amount of time that he could bow, so if he's inside, he'll be chayiv. Loishna de bas shtachva, v'loishna de lava bas shtachva. It doesn't make a difference if he could actually bow down in the position that he's in or not. So teiku, this also remains a question. A third shaila, boy Ravashi. Ravashi asks, Timei atzmai b'mezid. In a case where a person was inside the Beis HaMikdash and he was metame himself deliberately. So what's the halacha here in this case? So Rashi explains that this ibaya of Ravashi is only if you're going to say that the shear of the shehiyah that we're speaking about is both for a carbon and for malchus as well. So now the shaila is whether that shear, that's this leniency, that it's only if you remain that amount of time, does this apply even in a place where he was metam himself b'mezid? What's the shaila? Do I say that ba'aynes gemiri shehiyah, that if person's inside the Beis HaMikdash and it happens without his control, so then I say that he has that amount of time that if he remains there, it's chayiv, and if not, he has to get out. But that's only if it was an aynes. B'mezid, though, loy gemir shehiyah. If he wasn't tam himself b'mezid, then this leniency does not apply. The halacha l'Moshe Misinai was not set for this case, and it'll be chayiv even if he remained there less than that amount of time. So again, b'mezid loy gemir shehiyah. Or like similar to what the Gemara said before, bifnim gemiri shehiyah, when one remains inside the Beis HaMikdash, there's the halacha l'Moshe Misinai that he's only chayiv if he remains there this period of time. Loishna ba'aynes v'loishna b'mezid. Doesn't make a difference how he became tamei, whether through an aynes or he did it himself b'mezid. Teiku, this also remains a shaila. The last shaila the Gemara asks on this subject, also a similar thing. Boy, Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi asks, Nazir bekever, a Nazir that was in a Beis HaKvaris. So Rashi explains, we're talking about a case where the Nazir, which is not allowed to be metam himself to Mesim, and he entered into the Beis HaKvaris in a way that's permitted, because he went inside a box in an enclosed area. And he's there inside. Now someone came and opened up this box. And now he's exposed in the Beis HaKvaris and he has to go out immediately. So the shaila is, boy shehiyeh lemalkis. So regarding this nazir that remains inside b'mezid, after this box was opened up, there's the shear of the shehiyeh, the halacha l'meshmi Sinai that was said regarding a person in the Beis HaMikdash. Does it apply here as well, that only if we remain that amount of time that it takes to bow, only then will he be chayiv malchus? And Rashi explains here the shaila is specifically regarding malchus, because for a person that became tamei, a nazir that is, that became tamei, there is no carbon chatos as a kapara for this. There is a carbon you have to bring in order to start over his naziris, but as a kapara for what he did, there's no carbon. So the only thing that we're looking for is to know if he gets the punishment of malchus only when he remained that amount of time, or he doesn't have to remain there for that amount of time to be chayiv malchus. B'fnim gemiri shehiyeh. Do I say that maybe the halacha l'meshmi Sinai of this amount of time is only inside the Beis HaMikdash regarding tumah there? So b'fnim gemiri shehiyeh, there is where I have this halacha l'meshmi Sinai for shehiyeh, but b'chutz, outside, and here as it applies to a nazir and a Beis HaKvaris, loy gemiri shehiyeh, the halacha l'meshmi Sinai did not include this. Or ba'aynes gemiri shehiyeh, that in a case where a person ba'aynes finds himself in a place where he's tamei and he's not allowed to be there, whether it's in the Beis HaMikdash, whether it's a nazir inside a Beis HaKvaris. So it's no difference inside the Beis HaMikdash or outside. The same halacha l'moshe misina of shehiyah applies. Teiku, this as well remains a shaila. The next part of the Mishnah it explained regarding the person that was tamei inside the Beis HaMikdash, so he has to make his way out as quickly as possible. So it said, Bale barucha chayev, if he takes a longer route out, he'll be chayev b'ktzara. If he goes the shortest way out, potter. Then he'll be potter. So Rav explains, ktzara sha'amru. When it says that if he goes in the shortest route, that he's going to be potter, afila ekev b'tzad geidel. Even if he's going out with his heel behind his toe, meaning he's walking very slow. Even if he's walking that slow that it takes him all day to walk out, but the fact is that he is walking on the shortest route. The length of the time that it actually takes him to walk in that route doesn't matter. If he's going the shortest route possible, he'll be potter. As we said, that if one remains a certain amount of time, as long as it takes to bow, then he'll be chayiv. How about if he remained a little bit, and then he continued walking, and he remained another little bit, and if you combine the few times that he waited, it adds up to that amount of time that it takes to bow. In fact, the Gemara, why is Rav having a shaila about this? Why can't he answer this from what he himself just said regarding the person that's walking out extremely slow? And the Gemara understands right now that means that he's walking, he's stopping, he's walking, so he's not walking straight, and therefore there is those little amounts of time in between, and Rav says it's okay. So I see that I don't combine the few amounts of time together to add up to the full time to be chayiv. And says the Gemara, no, that's not what Rava meant. When he said the person's walking out the shortest route and it takes him all day, he's walking very slow, but he's constantly moving. He's moving very slow, but he's constantly moving. So he won't be chayiv. Here the shaila is where he stopped a little and walked and stopped a little. Could I combine the little stops to make up for the whole amount of the shehiyah to be chayiv? That's a different shaila. Now, Abaye asks the shaila from Rabbe. And Rabbe, this is Rabbe Bar Nachmani, this was Abaye's Rebbe. What's if he walked out the longer route? However, shir ketzara, when he went out in the longer route, he ran out so quickly that it takes him just as short as it would take to go out in the shorter way. If he would go out in the shortest route, walking out average, he went out in the longer way, running, and it's equivalent now in the amount of time to the shorter route. Samahu, what's the halach in this case? Will he be chayiv or not? What's the suffix? Do I say shir gemiri? That the halacha here about the differences between the long route and the short route, it's really about the length of time. That's the significant point here. The longer route takes more time, the shorter route takes less time. So therefore, if he went out the longer route, but he ran and took him shorter, so then it's going to be potter. Even though he's going in the longer route, but the main thing is the timing here, and he ran out. Or perhaps dafka gemiri. No, when it says in the Mishnah, the long route, the short route, halacha l'Moshe Sinai, this halacha is exact what it is. If he goes out the longer route, it doesn't matter if he ran or he walked slow, he's always going to be chayiv. If he takes the shorter route, then he's always going to be potter. You go by the act of which route he chose to go out. How fast he ran, how long in timing it took him, that doesn't matter. So some Rishonim say that this shaila is not a shaila according to what Rava said before. Because Rava before said that if he goes out on the shortest route and he's walking very slow, that he's going to be potter, even though he walked very slow. So we see clearly that Rava had no suffix about this. That you just go by the actual route that he chose. It doesn't matter how fast or slow he's going. And therefore, the Gemara is here saying that Abaye asked the shaila from Rabba, but Rava would not have the shaila. So Rabba answers Abaye, Loi nitna arucha lehidachis etzloi. This longer route is not a way for him to push off the chiyuv, to be chayiv, when he's tamei inside the Beis HaMikdash. So if he walks out the longer route, even if he runs out actually, and it's just as short as going by the shorter route, he cannot push off the isser. If he chose the longer route, he's going to be chayiv. So basically what he's saying is it doesn't go by the amount of time, it goes by the actual route itself. That's what determines whether he's chayiv or not. Ask if Lord Abzeira, it's not Abzeira asks on this conclusion. So now this halacha that we know, Tamei sheshimish, a kayin, which is Tamei, and he did avodah in the Beis HaMikdash while he's Tamei, b'misa. So he's chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. So the question is, heichi mishkachas lo, where is there a case that he would only be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim for doing the avodah while he's Tamei? And why would he not be chayiv kodesh if he did this avodah b'mezid for remaining inside the Beis HaMikdash when he's tamei? Now, kodesh is a more severe punishment because kodesh, as it says in other places, kodesh is for the person himself and it affects his children as well. Misa b'dei shamayim is only for him. So the Torah is saying that the kain which is tamei that serves in the Beis HaMikdash tamei, what anish does he get? Only misa b'dei shamayim. But why wouldn't he get anyways a more severe punishment of kodesh? Because he's remaining inside while he's tamei. So the Gemara explains, if when he did the avodah, so he did not remain longer than he's supposed to, he's taking out the shortest route, so how is it possible that he realizes he's tamei and he immediately walks out in the shortest route? So how is he doing any avodah b'shas ma'aseh? He can't do any avodah. If after he realized his tamei, he still remained long enough to be chayiv, so then bar kodesh. So then he would be chayiv kodesh for the very fact that he's remaining there while he's tamei. And so why would he be chayiv only misa b'dei shamayim for doing the avodah? So now how does this connect to the boy that we had before? So the Gemara explains. Now if you're going to say shiura gemiri, the distinction that the Mishnah says between the long route and the short route, it's not just about the route itself. It's about the time, how fast the person is walking or running out. So then I could say, mishkachas law, the case when the person, the kayin, would be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim, only misa b'dei shamayim, for doing the avodah while he's tamei, and not for remaining there while he's tamei. The case is the honest nafshei b'ktzara, that he did the avodah, so he remained there extra, but now he took the shortest route, and he didn't walk out the shortest route just walking average pace. He ran out the shortest route, which makes up for the time that he lost when he did the avodah while he was tamei. So he did the avodah there, and he ran out in the shortest route. So it comes out that for remaining in the Beis HaMikdash while he's tamei, he would not be chayiv because even though he stayed extra, but then he took the shortest route and he ran out. So he made up for that extra time, and therefore he's only chayiv for doing the avodah while he's tamei. But if you're going to say that when it says the long route and the short route, that it's saying dafke, that these are the two routes. When he goes out the short route, he's always going to be potter. If he goes out the long route, he's always going to be chayiv. It doesn't make a difference, the timing, the pace of how fast he ran out or not. So then, if so, so then what would be the case that a person that's tamei remained extra in the Beis HaMikdash in order to do the avodah, and he's not going to be chayiv for remaining extra. He's only going to be chayiv for doing the avodah kodesh. What is, or Misib de Shamayim, that is, for doing the Avodah, he's only Chayiv Misib de Shamayim and not Karas. What is that case? Omar Abaye, so Abaye answered and explains, my kushya. What's the question? I'll tell you a case. The case would be, the person realizes he's Tameh and he immediately leaves the Beis HaMikdash in the shortest route, so he's not Chayiv for remaining there. But while he's walking out on the shortest route, on his way out, he was on the Mizbeach, and on the way out, he takes a fork and he turns over a piece of the meat of the carbon that's on the Mizbeach. So by doing that, he actually helps, it's an Avodah, because he helps that meat cook or burn quicker on the Mizbeach. This is something that Rav Huna said. No, Rav Huna said, Zar shehapach b'tzinoira. A Zar that's not allowed to do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, and he went and he did this, he just with a fork turned over the basar of the carbon, chayiv misa. He's chayiv misa, as the pasuk says, a Zar that does the Avodah, hazar hakarev yumas. So we see that even this little Avodah would be chayiv. So therefore, that could be even while he's walking out, then he's not chayiv for remaining there an extra second, but he still did the Avodah and he would be chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Says the Gemara Guf, let's look again back at this din itself that Rav said, or Rav Huna that is, Omer Rav Huna, Zar shahafach b'tzinoira chayiv misa. A Zar, a Yisrael, he's not a Kayan, and he comes and he does an Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, even something as small as with a fork turning over the basar on the carbon, he'll be chayiv misa. So the Gemara asks, what is the chiddush here of Rav Huna? Hey chidami, what's the case? If the case over here is that if you would not turn over this piece of meat, then it would not burn. So then pshita, obviously it's an avodah. In order for it to the haktara, for it to burn on the mizbeach, it had to be turned over, so he would be chayiv. What's the chiddush that it's so small? It's a necessary avodah. And if the case here is that even if you wouldn't turn over this piece of meat, it would have burnt anyways, so then my kovid. What did he do? He didn't, by turning it over, he didn't accomplish anything. So why would it be considered an Avodah? And says the Gemara, we only need this case. Rav Huna's chiddush was in the following. If you would not turn over this piece of meat, it would burn. But burn in 2 hours. He sped up the process. Now it's going to burn in 1 hour. And therefore, this is the point of the whole chiddush of Rav Huna. The whole keruvi avodah avaidihi. When you do an act which brings the completion of the avodah quicker, that's also an avodah. Even if it's not something that without you it wouldn't have gotten done, it would happen. But he made it quicker. That's also an avodah. Yeah, so this is a discussion in Achrayim whether this applies regarding other Yisurim as well, like on Shabbos, if someone is mavashal by cooking and you speed up the bishul, there also Yechayev for bishul. Some say that in this case the Gemara is bringing this up here because here, since you see that the Torah says that you should make a fork as a klisharis to turn over the meat and the carbon, that shows what's the point of the fork. In order to turn it over, that it should burn quicker. So it shows that burning quicker is an important thing in the Avodah. Rav Ashi said, I want to say a halacha, but I'm afraid of the question that my colleagues will ask me on what I'm going to say. What halacha did he want to say? A person that comes into a house that has a nega. Now, when one comes into a house with a nega, he becomes tummy. So he said, though, when he comes in and he walked in derech hachayrav, he didn't walk in the normal way. He walked in backing into the house. He walked in completely into the house. He's a drop outside the house. His nose is still sticking out of the house. In such a case, tahir. He's going to be tahir. Why? Because the pasuk says, "V'haba el abayis," that when someone comes into the house, and this term "ba" coming in means derech bia asra teira, that the isser is to walk into the house in the normal fashion that a person walks. But if he goes backwards, he's not going in the normal fashion. So then he's going to be pater. Okay, so he has a clear pasuk as a source for this statement. So what is he afraid of? What's the question that there is in what he said? So he says, and I'm afraid of my colleagues because there's a simple question on what I'm saying. Because if this is the source, this pasuk here, so then kulei nami. So then why would this halacha be only in a case that when a person backs in, he'll be tahir, only because he didn't enter completely and his nose is still sticking out? How about if he backs in and he's completely inside? I should still say that he would not become Tameh because it says Vehaba, only if he comes in the normal fashion. This is the halacha that Rabbi Ishia. So apparently Rabbi Ishia heard this halacha from his teachers, and he explained it based on this pasuk. But this detail, he didn't have an explanation for it. Why should this only be in a case where the person is not in completely, his nose is sticking out, even if he's in completely, I should still say that he didn't come in the normal way, and he should not be tummy. So Amar Rava says about this, and he says, no, it's actually very easy to explain. Because kulai, even when he backed in, so he didn't walk in the normal fashion, but if he goes in completely, legora mikelim shebabayis, so then that's not any worse than any of the vessels that are found in the house that also become tamei. D'chsev, where the pasuk says, "V'lo yitame kol shebabayis," that everything in the house should not become tamei. The pasuk there says that before the kohen says that this bayis has a nega and it's tamei, upinius habayis, you should clear out the house of all the kalim in order that it should not become tamei, because whatever is left in the house becomes tamei. So what's Rav saying? Over here you see by the kalim, once it's fully inside the house, it doesn't matter how it got in. Then I say that he's going to be chayiv. It's going to become tamei just by the fact that it's in the house. However, over here, we're talking about a person that is not becoming tamei for being fully in the house, because part of his body is still outside. Elamai, why is he becoming tamei? Because he entered into the house, the biyah. Over here, the entrance into the house, there's a difference if you walked in the normal manner or you walked in backing in. If he walks in the normal way, so then I say that if most of his body is in the house, he becomes tamei just for entering. This is the halacha of a person that comes into a house that has an ega, b'chlal, but to a case where a person goes into a place tamei, where he's not supposed to be. So if most of his body is inside, so then that means that he just walked in. But since he came in the not normal fashion, so over here, that halacha of Rosh V'Ruba does not apply, and therefore if even only his nose is sticking out, you can't say that he came in the normal way, and he will not be tamei. Says the Gemara Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned a similar halacha in the Braise regarding coming into the Beis HaMikdash. Gagin halalu. So first the Braise says regarding any area where there's a second floor in the Beis HaMikdash, and you're there on the roof of this floor, you're not on the ground level in the Beis HaMikdash, ein oichlun sham kotche kotchem. You can't eat from the kotche kotchem there, because the Tana in this Braisa holds that the roof does not have the kedusha of the Azara in the Beis HaMikdash. And it's also similar, according to this opinion, in the city of Yerushalayim. When you eat a carbon, a kotchem kalim, the whole Yerushalayim has to be on the ground level, not on a roof or on the second floor. And they ain't shechtim sham kotchem kalim. Kotchem kalim that can be shechted anywhere in the Azara, but that's only on the ground floor, not on a second floor on the roof. Now, v'tomei shenichnas derech gagen lehechol, a person that's tomei and he didn't enter in the normal way. He climbed over the wall and he through the roof. That's how he entered inside. Potter. He's going to be potter. Why shenemar v'la mikdash loy tovoi, that he should not come into the Beis HaMikdash, which means derech biyah asr Torah. So this Braise says the same point. When it says the word loy tovoi, it means coming in the normal fashion. That's what the Torah answered. So here we see the same idea. However, even over here also regarding the Beis HaMikdash, even when he came in the not normal fashion, but if he remains inside, and he remains inside the shear of the shehiyah that we said before, to be chayev, then he'll be chayev even if he came in the abnormal way. But if he did not remain the shear shehiyah, and now you want to be mechayev him for entering, for that act of entering, then he has to come in the normal way to be chayev, not if he came in through the rooftop. Okay, the next thing the Mishnah said was, Zuhi mitzvah sasei shebemikdash ein chayavin aleh v'chulu. That this when we're talking here about a person that was tamei inside the Beis HaMikdash, and he didn't go out as quickly as possible. So this is a mitzvah sasei in the Beis HaMikdash that you're not chayev for it a certain carbon. Okay, so explain this a little bit when we learned the Mishnah, but here the Gemara will explain what is this statement in the Mishnah referring to. In fact, the Gemara, what is this going on? The Ka'amar Zuhi, that this is the case. This is the case in relation to what? And says the Gemara, Hasan Koi. This is explaining what it said in another Mishnah in Masechta Haidiyos. And there the Mishnah says, Ein chayavin alasei va'aloisase shebemikdash. Regarding the essa and the loisase in the Beis HaMikdash, which means whether in a case where the person is outside and he walks in while he's tamei, or while the person was inside and now he has a mitzvah saseh to go out The mitzvah says v'yishalchu min hamachna, when he's inside, that he has a mitzvah say to go out. There's actually also a mitzvah essay there, but there's an essay there as well. So regarding this case of Tumah in the Beis HaMikdash, there is no halacha of the par helim dover shel tzibur. That's what that Mishnah in Hoydis is talking about, which means a bezdin that taught a halacha for all the people that this is allowed, and then people based on what they taught did it b'sheigig. Who has to bring the carbon? The bezdin has to bring a carbon for teaching everyone this halacha, which is asr. However, here regarding this, in this case, they don't bring a carbon, and also the aim v'in asham tali. And they also don't bring an asham tali al esev alois eseshe b'mikdash. Regarding this halacha of tumah, whether he was inside and has to go out, or he was outside and he walked in, there's no halacha of asham tali. Now, by both of these cases, regarding the par helam dava of the tzibur, that the bezdin brings a carbon, or the carbon of the asham tali means that the person brings the asham, if he has a suffix, if he did the avera or not, until he finds out, and then he brings a carbon chatos. In both of these cases, the reason why the carbon does not apply is the same reason. Because you only chayiv, the bezdin that is, would only be chayiv to bring a carbon when it's a case that if an individual does this avera, he's chayiv to bring a regular chatos. And the same regarding the asham tali. He only brings the asham tali until he finds out if it's a regular case of a chatos. But the tumah in the Beis HaMikdash brings a unique carbon. It's called oila v'yared. For a rich person and a poor person, it's a different carbon. So here, the halacha of the carbon for the bezdin or asham tali do not apply. Avol, however, chayovin al ese va'al lois ese shebenida. There's another case though, the ese and the lois ese by a nida, and that over there, if the bezdin teaches someone regarding the halacha of the nida, and by mistake is materit for him, and b'sheigig the person goes and does this isser of nida, there the bezdin will have to bring a carbon chatas for this. And also, umevien asham taloi al ese va'al lois ese shebenida. And also the halacha of bringing a asham taloi applies by this halacha of a nida, which is again till he finds out what he did wrong. If he has a suffix about this, you bring the asham taloi. That does apply by the nida. Now, the ka'amar, and what the Mishnah is saying is that zuhi mitzvah aseh b'mikdash she'ein chayavan aleha. For the mitzvah aseh in the Beis HaMikdash, when a person is tamei, for this he's not chayiv, or the bezdin that is would not be chayiv to bring a carbon, or the asham taloi as well. But for the nida, in the case of the nida, the person would be chayiv to bring a carbon, the bezdin or the person in asham tali. Now, ve'ezi mitzvah sasei shebenida shechayavin allow. What is the case that this Mishnah is referring to when it says regarding the nida, when he b'sheigig had relations with a nida, that he would be chayiv to bring this carbon, whether the bezdin or the person to bring a asham tali. The case is a person is having relations with his wife and she's pure, she's not a nida. And she tells him nitmeisi, that I'm tamei, upiresh miyad, and he separated from her immediately. So then chayiv, just for separating from her, while the aver is still chai, it's hard, then it'll be chayiv. Why? Because leaving that way is the same hana like entering, and therefore there's a chiyuv for the bia itself and then for the yitzia as well. So this is a case where there is a chiyuv of asham taloi until the person finds out, or the bezdin that was meire for a person by mistake regarding this, they would be chayiv this carbon. Rashi points out that the emphasis that this halacha that bezdin has to bring this carbon or the asham taloi is not only regarding this case of nida. It's in any case where there's a regular carbon chatos for an individual and not a carbon oil v'yated. In this case of a nida, where b'mezid it's kares and b'sheigig there's a regular carbon chatos, so the halacha of a bezdin that's meire to be chayiv the carbon of the bezdin or for asham tali applies by any such case, not only by nida. The reason why the Mishnah here brings the case of nida because it's similar to what we're talking about regarding a person that's inside the Beis HaMikdash, because we're talking about a person that enters beheter and then he becomes tamei. The same thing over here, a person has relations with his wife, which is tahira, and it's beheter, and then in the middle she becomes tamei. What do you do then? And actually the halacha is the opposite. By the Beis HaMikdash, he has to leave immediately, and by the nida, he has to wait and not leave immediately. So it's bringing up this case because it's similar. Now, Itmer, regarding this halacha of the nida, we learned Abaye said Mishmei Rab Chiya Barav in the name of Rab Chiya Barav that chayiv shtayim, that in the case of the person that was a nida, his wife was a nida, and he didn't know. The Gemara is going to explain soon exactly what the case is, but he had relations with his wife, Nida. He'll be chayiv twice. He'll be chayiv for the knisa, for entering, and also for coming out. In both, but there's two chiyuvim here. V'chein amar Rava amar Rav Shmuel bar Shava amar Rav Huna chayiv shtayim. He's chayiv twice. Choda knisa, once on coming in, v'choda prisha, and once on going out. As we said before, that you have to wait until the aver is mace. Only then he's allowed to come out. So the Gemara asks him this: how could it be that he would be chayiv twice? Havi bar Rabbe. So Rabbe or Rava asked about this. V'mai, what's the case over here? Ileime samuch levesta. Is the case that this was the time of the vest of the usual cycle of his wife when she gets her period, and therefore this is the time that he could expect that she would become a nida. That's when he had relations with her. So now, what's the case though? What the person though? What are we talking about? Ubaman, who is he? Is this a person that's a Talmud Chacham and he knows all the halachas about nida? So if so, bishloima knisa l'chayim. So for this, that he had relations with his wife, and it turns out that she was already a nida, she already became a nida when he entered in. So he would be chayiv for this. Why? Because this is a shegig. Because kasavar, he thought to himself, yecholni liva. Even though this is the time, the day that my wife gets her period, but nevertheless, he thought that he'll be able to have relations with her, and she won't be a nida yet. Okay, so it's not a oinus. It's not a mazid either, so this is a shegig. Elo aperisha amay l'chayiv. But now, when he was peidish, and he didn't wait until the aver is mace, why would he be chayiv? Mazid who, if this is a Talmud Chacham and he knows the halacha that he has to wait, so then he's a mazid. So he should only be chayiv once. Now, so you're going to say that we're talking about a ma'aretz. He doesn't know any of the halachas. So he's a shegig for both, for when he came in, when he came out. But if that's the case, idi ve'idi, ochal shnei zeisei chelev behelam echad, who? So for both, for the knisa and for the yitziyah, it's like a person that ate 2 kizeisim of forbidden fats, and it's all in one lapse of awareness. He doesn't know anything about the halacha, and he forgot, and he eats 2 kizeisim that he's chayav only once. So over here as well, this Ama'aretz that doesn't know any of the halachas, so by the Knisa and by the Yitziyah, since he doesn't know anything, so he doesn't realize that he should have stayed away from his wife in this time when there's the vest. So if that's the case, so then he should be chayiv for the Knisa and for the Prisha as well. It's all considered to be one helam. So why is he chayiv twice? The elo, so the case must be b'shein samuch levesta. It's a case where this woman that became a nida, it's not in the time of her cycle when she would become a nida, and that's where we're saying that it's possible that you would be chayiv twice for the knisa and the prisha. But the Gemara still asks, it doesn't make sense. Ubeman, who are we talking about? If this is a Talmud Chacham, so then you shouldn't be chayiv even once. A knisa, when he entered, he shouldn't be chayiv because onus. Since this is not a time of a cycle where his wife would be a nida, the whole thing was just an einus. It happened without him expecting it at all. It's not something that he could have avoided. A perisha, and then after his wife tells him that she became tomei, coming out, and he didn't wait, so mazid. For that he's a mazid, since he's a Talmud Chacham and he knows the halacha. And on the other hand, v'i ba'ama oretz, or i ba'ama oretz, if we're talking about a'ama oretz, chodahu de mechayev, so he should be chayev only once. And that's aprisha only when he came out, because on coming in, so then he's an einus. It's not something you could expect either way. Even if you would know the halacha, the whole thing is an einus, just like by the Talmud Chacham. But when he came out, then he should be chayiv once. For that's a shegig. He doesn't know the halacha that he has to wait. So the Gemara went through all the different options here and shows that there's l'chayda no case where I would say that you chayiv twice for the knisa and for the prisha. So the Gemara answers, there is one case. But then Rav explained, when is that case? The case is when this is the time, the cycle of his wife, when she would become a nida, and therefore there's no einus here. When he enters in this time period, you can't refer to it as an einus, it's a shegig. And this is a Talmud Chacham, he knows the halachas, but he doesn't know all the halachas. But Talmud Chacham lezu, ve'en Talmud Chacham lezu. He knows the halacha that he's not allowed to enter when his wife is in nida, but he doesn't know the halacha about being peirish, that he has to wait until the aver is mace in order to come out. So therefore, when he comes in, he's a shegig, because this is the time of her cycle, and therefore he should have been more careful, and he should have not taking a chance, and therefore it's not a nainis, it's a shegig, so he's chayiv once for that. And then he's chayiv separately for this that he didn't wait. Then afterwards, when he went out, when his Eivah was still chai, because that's something separate that the person did not know about b'chlal. He doesn't know about this halacha b'chlal. And not only that, there's actually a yediyah in between that separates the two halamas, the two avedas that he did here, not knowing. There's the first aveda that he didn't know, that he wasn't careful enough. I mean, he knew the halacha that he's not allowed to enter while she's a nida, but he wasn't careful enough, knowing that her cycle is now. And then in the middle, he finds out his wife is a nida, so now he has a yediyah, and now he has to separate. But now there's a new helam. He doesn't know the other halacha that when he comes out, that he has to wait until the Eivah is mace, and therefore he's chayiv a separate carbon for that, because for that he's not a Talmid Chacham. He didn't know that halacha. That's the only case where these Amiram before said that he would be chayiv twice.